dangerous new race to build nuclear weapons could be underway.
What happens if there's another extreme weather event?
As our climate warms, a possibly even deadlier heat is on the rise.
Will there be another pandemic in the future?
Nearly all of the world's 9 nuclear-armed states are modernizing and upgrading existing weapons.
There have been more than 946,000 job cuts announced.
How long would it take an advanced hacker to break into the most complex, most powerful AI models that we've built?
Grand Theft Auto will now release on Thursday, November 19th, 2026.
It's not coming out!
Imagine this. It's 2026, you've almost got GTA 6 in your console, the FIFA World Cup is blasting from stadiums across North America, there's a new Avengers movie, your burger wrapper is edible, and your smart vacuum talks back in your favorite TV host's voice.
What the you say?
Here's how to survive living like a slob. Plus whatever cursed meme TikTok cooks up next, Monkey in Tornado 2.0 or worse, is trending. On the surface, it looks like peak future. But under all that is this quiet question. What if 2026 is also the year the whole system starts to snap? Not from zombies, not from aliens, just from stuff already happening now. Wars, cyber attacks, climate chaos, all stacking like a Jenga tower made of red flags. Which is, yeah, yikes. For this episode, we did something kind of cursed. We took real research, current events, security reports, climate projections, economic warnings, and fed it into a large language model, specifically the Gemini Deep Research version, and asked it to build a plausible worst-case timeline for 2026. So this is a simulation, not destiny. It's an AI-stitched what-if, built out of real weak spots in our world. Take it with a big grain of salt. Maybe 2.
What the hell are you talking about?
But also, don't ignore it entirely, because the big idea here is simple and nasty. 2026 doesn't fall apart from one big disaster. It breaks because everything hits at once. Could a cyber attack trigger blackouts during the World Cup? In a world where 84% of Gen Z already uses AI to decode the news, who controls the narrative when the feed goes to war? And when everyone is focused on war and money, what happens when a devastating new pathogen quietly emerges? So let's hit play on AI Predicts 2026 and see what you'd actually be dealing with, and how you might survive it.
We begin today's show looking at Russian President Vladimir Putin's announcement that Moscow would suspend its participation in the new START treaty, the last nuclear arms control agreement between the United States and Russia.
You wake up in January 2026. No explosions, no sirens, just another year. But in the background, a quiet clock is hitting 0. The new START treaty, which is the last big nuclear arms control deal between the US and Russia, expires on February 5th, 2026. It caps long-range nuclear warheads and delivery systems. Think of it as the final, we're at least pretending to be responsible contract between 2 superpowers who own planet killers. There were talks to update it, maybe bring China in, but those stalled.
China has no interest in joining the so-called the trilateral negotiations.
Diplomats say they're still optimistic, but the calendar doesn't care. The treaty is running out. Technically, both sides could continue to follow the treaty's rules voluntarily. Some officials hint they will, but once the legal guardrail is gone, military planners are on edge, leading to more warheads on the table and more room for miscalculation. At the same time, the Western Pacific Ocean is turning into a hotbed of paranoia. Night vision clips hit TikTok and X. Packs of water-based drones flying Chinese Coast Guard flags swarm a US carrier near the Bashi Channel between Taiwan and the Philippines. The drones cut across the American ship's path, shine targeting lasers at the bridge and cameras, and fire what Beijing later calls warning flares. It's clearly China probing and flexing on the US Navy to rattle Taiwan and its allies. But officially, both sides rush out statements saying there was no attack, just unsafe encounters at sea. You see 2 timelines lining up. Nuclear guardrails coming off, and rising tension exactly where big powers bump into each other. And this is just January.
China's decided to try to up the ante by bullying companies planning on doing big investments in the United States.
February is when our simulation stops being background noise on the news and starts to mess with the daily life of the average American. China doesn't roll tanks into Taipei. No D-Day landing. Instead, it launches maritime exercises around Taiwan, with a heavy Coast Guard presence and swarms of so-called fishing boats circling the island. New safety zones are declared, and any ship entering them is forced to slow down for inspections or turn back. On paper, it's just training. In practice, China is choking off what goes in and out of Taiwan, a de facto trade quarantine quietly targeting its exports. Cargo ships headed for Taiwan get harassed, delayed, or turned back. Insurers stop covering trips into the zone. Airlines reroute. Taiwan's exports, especially semiconductors, first slow down, then stall. Strategists have modeled this for years. A serious Taiwan blockade or quarantine could knock around 2.8% off global GDP in the first year. Trillions of dollars gone, costing China and Taiwan an estimated $1.6 trillion in losses alone. Markets do not take it well. Geez, so much for all my Tesla and Apple stocks. Stock exchanges bleed red. Anything tied to chips, shipping, or Asian growth gets hammered. Your feed fills with plunging charts next to shaky video of warships and jets. In the US and across Europe, some politicians talk tough about sending naval escorts to help Taiwan resume business as usual. Others warn this could spiral into war with a nuclear-armed China, weeks after the last big arms treaty died. With war fatigue from Ukraine, Gaza, and everything else, the public is split on how to react. So in our worst-case version, leaders go all in on economic warfare instead. Maximum sanctions, export bans, and financial restrictions. Think trade war sequel energy, tariffs and blacklists like in the US-China tech fight, just scaled up and uglier. In the next 2 months, the repercussions will hit harder than just your battered stock portfolio.
The ongoing chip shortage affects hundreds of products from cars to phones and, as News 8 Now's Emily Haugen found out, the latest video game consoles.
Taiwan is tiny, but its tech footprint is absurdly huge. One company there, TSMC, makes a massive share of the world's most advanced chips. The brains in iPhones, GPUs, data centers, high-end cars. Some estimates say over 90% of cutting-edge chips come from Taiwanese factories. We already saw a lighter version of this in 2021, when a chip shortage forced automakers to slow down production and used car prices in the US jumped over 40%. Dealerships emptied out and people waited months for basic cars. It was classic hurry up and wait. Now imagine that on legendary difficulty mode. In our simulation, new gaming consoles and graphic cards become impossible to get. Repair parts for phones, laptops, routers, back-ordered indefinitely. Car factories from Germany to Mexico go quiet. Some companies send workers home on unpaid leave. Others start full-on layoffs. This is where economists start dropping the term stagflation again. That cursed mix of high inflation and low or negative growth. Things cost more, wages don't keep up, jobs vanish.
Yes? Mr. Mackey, I need you to pack your stuff. You've been fired, bud.
It's like playing a game where every level gets harder, but your character never levels up. Governments and corporations scramble to de-risk supply chains. For years, the goal was cheapest and fastest. Now it flips to closer and safer, with a shift toward regional manufacturing and using backup suppliers closer to home. It's expensive and messy now, but great for resilience later. By the end of Q1 2026, you've already got nuclear tension, a chip shock, and rising prices. The tower's starting to wobble. By April, anger is the main emotion in the air. Those sanctions and tariffs are now ripping through the global economy. Food and fuel imports cost more. Anything crossing a border gets new taxes, new forms, new headaches. If your paycheck is in pesos, lira, or any shaky currency, you want dollars, euros, gold, anything that feels solid. Enter the crypto subplot, of course. Over the last decade, dollar-pegged stablecoins, cryptocurrencies designed to always be worth $1 US, have quietly grown into a huge parallel financial system. Regulators and central banks warn they could pose a systemic risk if they're not properly backed, especially in a crisis. So if one big coin snaps, it doesn't just hurt crypto bros. It can freeze payments, blow a hole in the funds of companies that parked money there, and trigger panic that spills over into banks and regular markets. One digital dollar breaking can suddenly set off a chain reaction that shakes the whole system.
Cryptocurrencies under pressure this morning again.
Our simulation hits that nerve. As people pile into stablecoins to escape inflation, the unease grows. They remember Terra USD crashing in 2022, or even Sam Bankman-Fried running off with billions of dollars of investors' hard-earned cash. Suddenly, everyone's asking if these coins are truly backed, or if the companies behind them can be trusted. Governments respond in full panic mode. Capital controls, new tariff rules, limits on foreign transfers, sudden crackdowns on certain exchanges and apps. From where you're standing, it feels more like my bank's nervous, my country's nervous, and suddenly all this safe stuff doesn't look safe at all. And just when trust in the system is wobbling, something hits it square in the face.
Chinese-backed AI tool hacked about 30 places, including some financial institutions, without help from humans.
May is where the simulation tilts into full techno-thriller territory. Adversary states like Russia, Iran, and North Korea decide the best time to exploit a fragile world is when everyone's broke and angry. Real-world financial stability reports already warn about systemic cyber risk, a big hit on core financial infrastructure spilling over into the wider economy. We've had previews. WannaCry, NotPetya, the Colonial Pipeline ransomware mess, all cyber attacks we didn't see coming. But this time, they're going for the jugular. In our simulation, a coordinated attack hits major payment processors, key banking backend systems, and parts of the power grid and fuel pipelines at the same time. Think a North Korean-style hacking crew plus a Russian ransomware gang going after Visa-type networks, big US clearinghouses, and regional utilities in one synchronized strike. We're not talking the app is slow. We're talking balances suddenly showing the wrong numbers.
Oh shit.
Transfers going missing, transactions duplicating or reversing, and ATMs in some cities refusing to spit out cash and just flashing error codes. At the same time, the attack, plus an already stressed power grid, trigger alarms at data centers and regional power networks, multiplying the chaos. The real danger isn't just systems going down, it's data getting corrupted. If you can't trust the ledger, the record of who owns what, money itself stops feeling real. From your point of view, your banking app glitches. You refresh 5 times. The number changes twice. Customer service is overloaded. Social media is chaos. Some influencers say, it's fine, don't panic. Others scream, this is the great reset, all in caps. You know that feeling when your game crashes and you're not sure it autosaved? Now, imagine that feeling for your life savings. That's the vibe. If you've prepped even a little, this is where you're glad you kept some cash at home, saved copies of recent statements, and know at least one place you can buy food without tapping a card. While cyber teams try to untangle the mess, nature decides it's time to throw hands. Climate scientists and the World Meteorological Organization have warned of a high chance that at least 1 year between 2025 and 2029 will be the hottest on record, and one of those years temporarily break the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming line. In our simulation, 2026 is that year. A brutal heat dome parks over big chunks of North America, then Europe, then parts of Asia, like the rolling 2023 heat waves, just longer and meaner. Cities that used to get a few hot days now sit above 104 degrees for weeks, and nights stay too hot for your body to recover. The power grid, already stressed by cyber issues and deferred maintenance, can't handle the surge in AC demand. Rolling brownouts, partial scheduled power cuts become the norm. Neighborhoods in cities like Los Angeles, Houston, Rome, and Delhi lose power for hours, day after day. And yes, this is where you finally see those World Cup stadium blackouts. Matches paused, lights out, millions watching the streams just freeze. Shortly after, chaos erupts in the stadiums and the streets. A human stampede crushes panicked fans. Looters try to take advantage of security systems being offline, and soccer hooligans hellbent on rage and fueled by alcohol wreak havoc. This was also supposed to be the year NSYNC finally did their big comeback tour. But sadly, it's bye. Now half the dates are canceled because nobody can guarantee power, AC, or a crowd that won't pass out. We prepped for cyber war, nuclear standoffs, and financial collapse. And in the end, the thing that takes out half the system is dumb, relentless heat. Not gonna lie, that's kinda on brand for our species. By June, survival mode gets real. Keep your gas tank above half, keep your power banks topped up, check on older relatives or neighbors, and learn how to open that electric garage door manually before you're stuck inside an oven with a car in it. By July, the temperature moves from this is uncomfortable to this is structural. Long-term warming plus an intense El Nino triggers severe drought in key grain-growing regions, including parts of the US Midwest, South America, Eastern Europe, and Central Asia. Aid organizations and climate security analysts have warned that climate stress is pushing fragile countries toward food insecurity and conflict. This is when the warnings become real in our simulation. Crop yields drop brutally. Rivers used for irrigation and shipping run low. Some governments slap export bans on wheat, corn, and rice. Others hoard fertilizer and key agricultural supplies. Global prices jump again, not just from inflation, but because there's literally less food to go around. Back in richer countries, you feel it as another ratchet click.
Am I crazy to think that this is literally so expensive? This is a veggie platter for $45.
Bread, pasta, cooking oil, and basic staples all spike. Food banks get overwhelmed. People who were barely hanging on with high rent and low wages start doing skip-a-meal TikTok jokes that aren't really jokes. Just broke people trying to meme their way through empty plates.
Oh my God!
At the same time, in places already on the edge, parts of Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, drought plus high prices push millions into acute hunger. Then August brings a political twist in our scenario. The US government, facing tight budgets, starts scaling back big disaster responses. Programs like FEMA and public health funding were already cut, and experts have warned this could leave the country unprepared for overlapping crises. If you live in an area with solid infrastructure and tax revenue, it's rough but survivable. If you live in a poorer region already hit by heat, drought, and job losses, the safety net starts to feel paper thin. At this point, survival means leaning on basic self-reliance. Freezing and rotating food staples, growing something, even balcony herbs, and building at least one real support connection. A neighbor, community group, or practical local Discord, not just a meme chat. But hey, I do love me some memes. Feel free to share some in the comments about what you think will happen in 2026. And of course, please like and subscribe if you're having fun with this doomsday prediction. It does a lot to help our channel survive.
There are growing concerns in Europe over Russia's possible use of drones in NATO airspace.
While the US and its allies juggle climate, malware strikes, and inflation, Moscow tests NATO by ramping up cyber attacks, sabotage, and covert ops in Baltic states, like Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, without rolling in the tanks like it did in Ukraine. In our worst case scenario for 2026, a series of cyber attacks knocks out parts of the power grid and rail systems in Latvia. Anonymous militias pop up near the border. Disinformation floods social media, claiming there's an uprising of Russian-speaking minorities, that NATO troops fired first, and that nobody really knows what's happening. NATO holds emergency meetings. Article 5, the attack one, attack all rule, looms over everything. But the alliance is divided. Some members want a strong response. Others are too busy with their own problems, and the US is politically split and stretched thin. For markets already crushed by Taiwan and tariffs, this feels like the sequel nobody wanted. You might even scroll past a clip from earlier in the year and think, didn't we already see cyber attacks wreck infrastructure in May? Are we just doing DLC versions of the same disaster now? Kinda, yeah. That's what convergence looks like. Just when 2026 is already a mashup of every doom scenario, the simulation pulls one more card. For years, the World Health Organization has warned about Disease X, a placeholder for some future unknown pathogen with pandemic potential. Viruses like Nipah, with case fatality rates reported as high as 40 to 75% in some outbreaks, are held up as examples of how bad it could get if the wrong virus learns the right tricks. In our AI simulation, a Nipah-like zoonotic virus starts spreading easily between people. It moves through crowded refugee camps and sweltering cities, and health systems already stretched by heat and shortages start to crack. Here's the twist. Remember those earlier budget cuts to health agencies and disaster prep? Now we're living the consequences. Fewer experts, weaker surveillance, slower response. So when disease X shows up, the system doesn't snap into action. It stumbles. We speed ran, defund the experts, and then acted shocked when the boss fight showed up and we didn't know the mechanics. If you're trying to survive this stage, the basics suddenly look like S-tier gear. N95 respirators, good ventilation instead of vibes, and boring stuff like clean hands, clean water, and wiped down surfaces, quietly doing a ton of work. As the new pandemic spreads throughout the world, a feeling of social paralysis takes hold. With insane inflation, battered infrastructure from cyber attacks, and now this, hospitals and emergency response teams are overwhelmed everywhere. It's also US midterm election season. In our simulation, polling stations are closed or short-staffed, and social media is swamped with deepfakes, fake results, and conspiracy posts. Across other democracies, elections turn glitchy. Stations shut, turnout drops, and fraud claims spread like wildfire through bots and realistic-looking AI videos. A 2025 Harvard Youth poll found that just 19% of young Americans trust the federal government most of the time. In a year like this, that trust isn't just fading, it's breaking. And just like the storming of the Capitol building in 2021, civil unrest hits a fever pitch. People fight one another over scarce resources. Meanwhile, the virus spreads uncontrollably in food lines and emergency shelters. The World Health Organization works overtime to develop a vaccine. This is where self-sustainability and vigilance will be key. Keep your masks on and your eyes open for the armed and dangerous. Taking shelter in a stocked bunker like mine could help. Sorry guys, I don't have any room. By December, in our AI-built worst case, the vibe is less world ends and more world reboots in hard mode. After a year of financial shocks, a cyber-smashed banking system, and one crisis after another, trust in digital money and big institutions never fully recovers. People and businesses start relying more on local money and trade, gold and other hard assets, and shorter local supply chains instead of fragile global just-in-time systems. This is what our simulation calls a hard reset. The world doesn't go full Mad Max. There's still internet, trade, governments, but more of life happens at the local level, by necessity, not idealism. As it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. It's the same human errors and blind spots, just running on a much harder difficulty setting. As the new pandemic gets worse, it will be up to you and your neighbors to support one another. This is where skills like growing and preserving food, repairing broken generators and engines, plus skills like treating the ill and the wounded will really come in handy. Places that built in resilience scrape by. The ones that assumed everything would just keep working and someone else would bail them out, don't. And that's really the core lesson this AI simulation keeps throwing at us. The worst case scenario isn't one giant asteroid. It's a whole bunch of smaller hits converging faster than our systems and our politics could handle. Happy New Year! So is 2026 actually going to play out like this? Probably not in this exact order. Hopefully not at this intensity. This is a hypothetical AI-generated worst-case scenario timeline built from real trends. Expiring treaties, Taiwan risk, cyber warnings, climate data, distrust in institutions, and pandemic fears. It's meant to entertain you, freak you out a bit, and maybe get you thinking about how all these pieces connect. We honestly hope 2026 is way more boring than this. More GTA 6 and FIFA World Cup, less stagflation and Disease X. Time will tell which version we get. If you want to see what happens when we zoom in on just one piece of this, say the cyber side, check out our episode AI Predicts an EMP Attack next. Because if AI can map out nightmare timelines, maybe their real survival skill is using those stories as a warning before the Jenga tower starts to shake. As always, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time on another episode of How to Survive.